Let's talk tourism.
Colin Brownlee, native of Canada, spent his career as an ad man before building and operating the Banana Azul Hotel in Puerto Viejo, Costa Rica, which he recently sold. He's a creative dynamo and one of the most clever marketers I know in the tourism industry. Colin, let's talk tourism.
Hey Casey, it's good to see you again. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
it has been too long. Back to Banana Azul, which now you've been out of there for how long now?
Since the middle of February. So
Okay.
what's that, about 7 months?
Yeah, so now, with some distance and some hindsight, what do you think set that place apart from competitors?
Um, I think the big thing is that we were always conscious about trying to give customers what they really wanted, like what really analyzing what were they looking for in Costa Rica and how to deliver it. And everybody thought that people were coming and looking for a North American sort of, hotel experience when actually they weren't, Just to give you an idea, one morning I was sitting on the beach very early in the morning and the sun rises on the Caribbean and it was 5:30 and I was having a cup of coffee and I was the only one there and it was just extremely magical experience. And I just thought, wow, if people could experience this. So immediately I started having free coffee, which our security guard made, and ready at 5 a.m. on the beach. And it would alert the clients that free coffee was ready on the beach at 5 a.m. in the morning. So there's just an idea of this, the experiences that you can create that really make people just those memorable moments. I mean, this you could never repeat in a Starbucks. I mean, they will always remember that coffee with themselves or their partner, at 5:30 in the morning when the sun came up on the Caribbean. So, and what did it cost you?
That's
A coffee, a
brilliant.
little bit of milk, and sure.
I mean, you already stole my next question. Were there any other amenities like that that your guests particularly enjoyed?
Yeah, like to give you an idea, we lived in the jungle on meets the sea, just a kilometer outside of Puerto Viejo. But I would instruct the staff, like the maintenance staff, if they saw a sloth in the tree or whatever, you go and tell people in the restaurant, sitting in the restaurant, that there's a sloth, up in the tree, and take them and show them. And clients just really love this sort of thing,
Yeah,
and like half the restaurant would get up and leave the table
yeah.
to go see the sloth. And we were always looking for ways to sort of really just in what can we do to enhance their trip. So there's all sorts of things. We gave, a free pipa upon check-in, with the umbrella and everything and the whole works and made it really clear that this was free everywhere in the community, that local people just cut it out of the trees, right? And then I would point to them. And
The
they so
coconut,
this
the coconut one.
yeah,
Yeah.
the green coconut, and we take this. You and I have been here for so many years, and look at that. Well, whatever. But this is a big deal for them. They didn't get one of those back in Canada or the United States.
Right.
It came in a carton with a tap on it, and it was in Whole Foods, and it was $10. And
I'm
and
sure I stole this from somewhere. I think I heard maybe somebody say it, but I always refer to those sort of those neat little moments in hotels as micro tours. You don't always want to
yeah,
get up at 6:30 in the morning and go do the whole dog and pony. Sometimes it's nice just to have somebody explain to you what the bird is in the tree or what kind of coffee you're drinking. You know what I mean?
right.
Those are
Yes, exactly.
the
Yeah.
informal, nice moments where you felt like you learned something and maybe connected with somebody. If you
Right. We
could,
had a bird
yeah,
feeder in front of the restaurant, which we put fruit out on, and all these different birds came around. And then we had a little QR code that went to our bird page and told people what kind of birds they were. And people thought this was the coolest thing. And so these are just things that people can do, and anyone can do it. And it doesn't, they think that you've got to have, 300 thread count sheets. And it's like, no, don't.
if you could go back and do it again with all that you know now, what would you have done differently?
You know what I one that's a really good question. And I've learned this now very and just do not go budget. Okay. So people who are traveling on a budget are always uncomfortable on their vacation because they're doing something they really can't afford,
Yeah.
right? So they're going to be taking it out on you because you're taking their hard-earned money,
Yeah.
right? And it's just this constant conflict. Now, when I started in Puerto Viejo back in 2005, you didn't have a choice. Everything was budget, and you could only build budget. I couldn't even get a cement mixer. We had to do everything in a wheelbarrow, so that was the only choice. But I spent all my years forever upgrading, trying to meet the needs of the ever-changing traveler and the customer that wanted, more of a middle class, little bit upper middle class vacation experience. So my goal is, in the end, the sweet spot I found in our place, if you could get it, was $200 a night. And while some of us in middle class might think that that's a little bit high, but somebody spending $200 a night for a week and go, what? It's our vacation, whatever. They're willing to do that, especially if you can offer them something nice. And then from an owner, $200 a night is a really good amount that you can have the proper rooms, the proper complement of staff, and the proper facilities and everything like that. So that is one of the things that I really learned over the years is just do not pick your class. There's budget, middle, and upper, right? And whatever class you're in, go for the top of it. Because
Sure.
then you're not constantly renovating and trying to keep up with you're already there. And otherwise, because all your profits and all your money is just going to go into these forever renovations.
Sure. What was your approach to staffing and overseeing your management team?
Yeah, very difficult in the beaches. If you're running in the beaches, we all are fighting for quality staff. And Puerto Viejo would be one of the worst of them, but I hear it's all the same everywhere. I even hear it in Nosara and everywhere. And so I did in the end. I used to think that we had to hire foreign people because they understood foreign people and this and that and everything, and they came with their own set of problems. In the end, I found that our best staff members were actually people that had attachments to the community. So usually people that were raised there and wanted to stay there. Okay. Yes, they were not skilled, so you had to train them. Okay. And so you had to be prepared to do that. But those people, had some of them stay as long as, one was 18 years. So those people were the people that really ran your hotel. It wasn't like you got up in the morning and made breakfast or ran the desk or anything like that anymore. That was your staff. So they were the most critical part of your operation. And as business owners, it's really hard to get that through our head because we see it as the highest cost center
Sure.
and most work. So we resent it. You have to get past that. You really got to realize that they're your biggest asset and treat them that way. I'll give you a little secret I found because everyone's trying to poach your staff,
Sure.
and it drives you crazy. You spend all this time training them, and then somebody offers them a little bit more money down the street, and they're off, and they don't realize what they're giving up until it's too late. They've flown the coop, and you kind of don't want them back because they kind of left. And so what I used to do was I used to give bonus days off between 2 and 3 a month paid. And all you had to do to get these bonus days off was do your job and show up on time and don't get any letters of warning or anything like that. And you got your bonus days off. And
Mhm.
depending how it went, you got 1 or 2. And if you exceeded and really did something extraordinary, you got 3 paid bonus days off a month on top of your. Now, when you add
Killer.
this,
It's a great perk.
it's a lot of days off. Okay. And you could give them the money, but they just spend the money and it's just gone. But a bonus day off, which we always made sure wherever possible was to back it up onto one of their other days off. So they would always have multiple days off in a row. So, or they could bank them and use them for a special occasion or whatever. And I knew my competitors would try and lure my staff away with more money, but they would never offer them the bonus days off. That was never
Clever.
on.
Very clever,
So that
Colin.
was one really good thing that really retained and got good compliance with the solid staff, you know.
What do you miss most about it?
The people and the staff, I've, I've been away and I'm very happy, I'm in my 60s now and feeling very relaxed and everything. And so there was no question whether it was the right thing to do. That's absolute. But, I was back recently and I visited the hotel and I saw some, my clients and the people in the neighborhood that always patronize the hotel and the staff. And people said, you know, they told me how much they miss me and they said, it's not the same without you. And it was really, and I felt kind of sad because I felt like I betrayed them a little bit. But I also knew that it was the right thing to do. And like everything in life, everything changes, and you just have to accept that. So I think that's the most, yes.
A terrifyingly small number of boutique hoteliers have an exit strategy. And in recent years, since so many of my contemporaries in the industry are getting older, you see the negatives, the terrible negatives of when a charismatic owner like yourself passes away untimely, the power vacuum that that can leave. Walk us through your exit. How did it all come about?
Well,
And
thankfully, it was came from somebody like you who was pretty dynamic and younger and was more in a traditional, work environment. And he was actually, he's quite wealthy and was going to loan me money to double the capacity of my hotel. I was at 25 rooms and the business and everything really said clearly I could go to 50 rooms. And I had the space and everything. And the South Caribbean was projectile for tourism was good and everything. And so I was really, ready to do this. And this is the first time I've ever done something like that. I did everything on my own. But to do this properly, I really needed outside investment. And while he was talking to me, he said, "This is for before COVID." He said, "Colin, what's your exit strategy?" And I just looked at him, and I just thought, "Whoa! I hope living as long as possible." That's all I've thought about. But I all of a sudden realized that, I thought about it and I thought, wow, I know people in their 70s who own hotels and are still there and are stuck there. And I realized, oh my God, what's going to happen when I'm 75? And I thought, I do not want to be here. So it was from that moment I had to have an exit strategy. And then post COVID, when I was looking at expanding again and everything, and business still was solid and everything, I just thought, no, you know what? Someone else has got to do this. I'm 60 years old now, at the time, and it's like, where do you want to be when you're 65? And where do you want to be when you're 75? And I thought, not doing this. It's just too much stress and too much work. So I put a plan together to sell it, and it took me 2 years, but I expected it to take up to possibly 5 years. So I did well in 2 years.
good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I'm a big believer that most businesses are not bought, they are sold. You need to consciously decide I'm selling and seek to
Yes,
sell.
yes. But making that decision is really difficult because making that decision is going to change your whole relationship with your work
Of
and your
course,
hotel
of
and
course.
everything.
Yeah,
And that's a scary proposition
yeah,
because this is your baby, and you're not going to have all you're doing is saying, I'm going to sell this. So that's going to
yeah.
change what you're going to invest in it, how much mental, everything. So it's a very difficult decision to make, and I can see why people resist it.
Yeah, and I think there's also a lot of personal emotion and pride attached to the property, that it's an extension of you.
Yes,
And
yes,
also owner operators, of which there are a good handful in this country. I think you also become enamored with the little fiefdom, that because I've owned and operated. It's nice to have someone serve you coffee every morning. It's nice.
yes. Well, actually, one of the best quotes I ever heard came from you. Somebody said, because I have friends that own restaurants that work half as much as me and are only open 5 days a week, and I think make more money than me. And I would just think, I was so jealous, and they don't have near the investment either. And so you said that somebody asked one time, who would ever want to own a hotel because it's 24/7 and it's really like consuming. And you said, where else can you live like a king?
Yeah.
And that was exactly it. I never thought
Yeah.
of it that way,
Yeah.
but every
It's
single one of my needs was
yeah.
always taken care of, whether
Yeah.
it be meals, cleaning,
Yeah.
laundry, car repair, shopping,
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
because I was busy running the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
So, um,
There's
and
there's certainly
I
some
do miss
upside.
that. When you ask back that other question about what I miss, I do
Yeah.
miss that.
Yeah.
Doing your own banking is not fun,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. What do you not miss?
I don't miss the daily constant stress. I could never relax when I was
Yeah.
away from the hotel or
Yeah.
when I was on holidays, and then all of, the coupled with that, the institutions in Costa Rica. If you didn't have enough to deal with staff and customers, then you have that whole component to deal with. But I mean, you either deal with that or get out of the kitchen. I mean, that's the way it goes. And I got much better at it. But I just realized as I got older, I just didn't want that. It was really clear. I listened to my intuition and said, no, it's time, and it's time to let this go, and it's time to do something else, or nothing, which is not an option for me, but it
Well, let's
was
talk
really
about
time.
that. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that. What are you working on now?
Well, a couple things. I'm working on a retirement community in La Garita. And I really think that Costa Rica has an opportunity to better serve the North American retiring community. We have really ideal weather down here, especially in the Central Valley. And also, we can offer better facilities and better services at more attractive pricing. And I've looked around, and Costa Rica really doesn't offer much of this. And
Crazy, right?
yeah, and also I think this whole idea of people owning vacation homes is really coming to a close, and because you don't make any money on them really. And also it's just like having a third child that you never planned on that you have to look after, in the way of work and money and everything else. So there's a real movement away from that, and people want to rent. So our audience is going to be snowbirds who want to come for a few months and escape the north. But now I think there's going to be a huge market in sunbirds, people that really want to escape the heat. And that because, in the Central Valley and the Tennis and Grecia area and places like that, it's very temperate climates and really natural and peaceful and is very attractive. And when people come and visit, they're just shocked at how temperate the climate is, and you don't need AC. Sure, a little bit to sleep with maybe is nice, but that's about it. And so that's why I'm working on this residential and recreational community that caters to a 55, 60 plus audience.
I think you've got a great nose for trends. And frankly, I'm stunned that we haven't seen more of that here until now. And
Yeah.
yeah, and now having dealt with retirement communities for my aging parents and looked at them, you go, there's gotta be a better way.
Yes, yes. And to also go back to your hospitality roots and make this something that people want to stay at and are
Yeah,
going to have fun. Like, one of the besides a manager, the next most important position I see is the activity director. And that
absolutely.
means on-site and off-site
Yeah,
activities,
yeah.
So and I just think that I just don't think you can really lose sport. And right now with the baby boomers, they have the money for this. When they look at the monthly costs of this is not a lot of money, and they can afford to do it
Yeah.
and will want to do it. So
I love it. Well, Colin, it is always a blast talking to you. I'm glad that you're one of the few hyper successful hotel exits that I've known in this country. and you certainly deserved it and worked hard for it. And I can't wait to see these new projects come to fruition.
Okay. Well, thanks, Casey. Always good to chat.
Let's talk tourism.